So something that I watched years ago, before I knew I was autistic, was a new film, sort of docu-film called The Horse Boy, based on a book. And it was an autistic child whose parents decided to take him to see the shamans in Mongolia to see if they could alleviate some of his more distressing symptoms. It's not a cure, don't worry, you can't cure autism, but it was looking at whether there could be ways to alleviate some of the symptoms. Totally worth watching. If you can get a hold of The Horse Boy or find it on YouTube or somewhere, then watch it. It's amazing. If you can't, you can get the book, and I'll put a link. So it's called The Horse Boy, Rupert Isaacson. But one of the quotes I really liked in it, because they got different people talking about stuff, was this one. One way of explaining an illness is to say this person is sick. Another way of explaining an illness is to say this is a different type of person and they will have a different role in society. And then it goes on to talk about how a lot of anthropologists have found that healers were shamans because they had some sort of sickness or neuropsychiatric issue. And that it's not that the shamans have those symptoms, and that they became the shamans, but they became the shamans because they had these symptoms. And that the line between shaman and psychoanalyst and stuff like that is quite an interesting thing that anthropologists have looked at. And then this last one. We are one of the few societies that treat neurological and psychiatric difference by creating institutions where we separate people completely from society. Most other cultures aren't like that. And I just thought that was really interesting because there is this idea about autistic people finding communicating in a neurotypical society tricky. But if society sort of treated everybody the same, we wouldn't be as disabled. We're disabled by cultural things that are put in place that make it more tricky to deal with, like sensory overload or lights being too bright, or the way people talk to each other and not being clear. Like when you say, "How are you?" you reply with actually "how you are," as opposed to just saying, "Oh, I'm fine, how are you?" So I just thought that was really interesting. So I thought I would share that in case you didn't know about this wonderful film or book. Get yourself a hold. If you know anybody who's autistic, or you're interested in shamanism or animism or a different way of looking at things, it's just a really interesting book and film.